Shot dead here as they prepared to protest against the Côte d'Ivoire's incumbent president, Laurent Gbagbo. The victims were at least 6 women, part of an all-female demonstration, say witnesses, that thought their sex would make them safe. It's another sign that this country risks tumbling back into civil war.
Our mothers went out to march peacefully. Then we saw Gbagbo's tanks. They came and opened fire on the old women, killing at least 6 on the spot.
And this mortuary in Abobo, a suburb of Abidjan, is full. The 50 bodies delivered in the last 5 days have been piled on the floor. More bloody proof of the escalating violence between troops loyal to Gbagbo and supporters of Alassane Ouattara. The UN endorsed Ouattara's victory in November's election, but he remains holed up in an Abidjan hotel. Foreign delegations shuttle back and forth, but there's little progress. No amount of prodding and cajoling from the international community has managed to shift Gbagbo from the presidency. He still controls the military, though it's not known how much cash he still has to pay them. But Gbagbo can count on his protege, Charles Blé Goude, to whip up the self-styled young patriots. In the west of the country, rebels have wrested control of a small town from pro-Gbagbo forces, another sign of deteriorating security. And according to the UN, electricity and water supplies to the north of Côte d'Ivoire have now been cut. Most of Ouattara's support comes from here. So far, at least 130,000 people have been forced to flee the violence in Côte d'Ivoire. Almost 400 people are known to have been killed. Diplomats think the real number is much higher. Elsewhere in the world, recently, governments have been brought down by figures far less dramatic than that. Bernard Smith, Al Jazeera.
Members of the United Nations Security Council have been discussing the situation in Côte d'Ivoire. Al Jazeera's Kristen Salumi is live for us there. And Kristen, Côte d'Ivoire's ambassador to the United Nations has been speaking passionately about what's happening in his country.
That's right. And clearly, at the United Nations, there is concern about the escalation in violence and a possible resurgence of civil war. The Security Council said as much in a statement issued just a short time ago. They are calling on Gbagbo to step down and expressed their readiness to impose further sanctions on him and other members who are seen of the government who are seen to be promoting these violent acts against civilians. The ambassador to Côte d'Ivoire is calling on the Security Council to do more to help his country. He is loyal to Alassane Ouattara, and he said that what's happening in his country really isn't any different from what's happening in Libya and other places in North Africa where people are standing up for their rights and democracy. Take a listen to what he had to say.
You recall, 2 months ago, I've warned about the genocide. Today, I will reiterate it. The genocide in the making. They are killing people along ethnic lines. They are killing nationals from foreign countries, for neighboring countries. They are killing people who are opposed to Mr. Gbagbo. That's not acceptable today in the 21st century, where elsewhere the people are taking their responsibility and asking for more democracy, more freedom. That's not acceptable.
So, Kristen, the UN's got forces on the ground there. Can they intervene? What's the UN doing about the situation?
Well, their mandate is to protect civilians, and right now what's happening is they're conducting joint military and police patrols. There's about 9,000 troops on the ground. The Security Council actually authorized 2,000 more troops. They're still waiting for them to arrive. They were authorized in January. What the Undersecretary General for Peacekeeping told us earlier today is that the troops are using tear gas when they encounter blockades or violence or threats to civilians. They're responding with tear gas. As we just heard, the ambassador from Côte d'Ivoire would like to see a stronger response by the UN peacekeepers there. Also, of course, the UN is involved on a humanitarian level. They've been supplying water to areas of the country that they can reach that no longer have electricity, and without electricity don't have clean drinking water. They're also talking about opening up a humanitarian corridor out of the neighborhood of Abobo and Abidjan. This is, of course, where all of the heavy fighting is taking place. So they're calling for a humanitarian corridor and a ceasefire to give both sides some time to move freely, to give civilians time to get out of that neighborhood if they want to, and also to replenish food supplies, treat the wounded, and bury the dead.
All right, Kristen, many thanks indeed. Kristen Salumi, live at the UN in New York. Now to Yemen, where a senior government official has said that President Ali Abdullah Saleh is expected to respond positively to an opposition roadmap outlining steps for him to relinquish power. The 5-point plan was proposed by some opposition parties, but as Hashim Al-Halbara reports, other groups in the country say that they're done with talking.
The roadmap is ready, but where will it lead? After spelling out their vision for a future without President Saleh, Yemen's main opposition parties say there's little point in any further talks with the nation's veteran leader.
People on the street should have the final say on the political change in this country, but there needs to be an option that avoids anarchy. That's the role of the political parties, but we shouldn't be disconnected from the people.
The president, though, remains defiant. He insists that if he leaves office early, a power struggle will be unavoidable.
Because this country have got a lot of things which are different from any other scenario. We have got Southerners who have been asking for secession. We've got the Houthis who are asking for different ideas and views, perhaps a sort of local government with full power. You have got Al-Qaeda. So we have got to have a clear, perspective of what change we're aiming at.
And that clarity isn't easy to achieve.
The Yemeni Socialist Party has its constituency mostly in the south, and the south is under tremendous repressive pressure. So that is not conducive to YSP participating in dialogue. But the presence of Salafi extremists in the dialogue, I think, has alarmed another party, Al-Haq party, and it's causing additional complications in the dialogue.
In the capital, anti-government protesters celebrated an army officer who joined their demonstration, and they say their fight will go on regardless of the political confusion. Back to square one. The protesters and the opposition are planning mass rallies on Friday to put more pressure on President Saleh to step aside. They want to bid him farewell, and that, they say, can't wait for another 2 years. Hashim Al-Halbara, AlJazeera, Sana'a.
Tunisia's interim president has called for legislative elections to be held in July. Fouad Mabaza says that the vote will elect representatives for a constitutional committee tasked with writing a new constitution. Mabaza also says that he intends to stay on as interim president past March. Under Tunisia's constitution, his term as interim president should end on March 15th. In northwestern Iraq, at least 9 people have been killed by a suicide bomber. Police say that the bomber was